Come along, children. Now we're going to have a little music.
Yo, what's good, guys? Welcome back to First Cut. This is our spoiler review of Avatar: The Way of Water. We are excited to jump into all the spoilery segments of this film. It is a long film, so we have plenty to talk about. I'm here with my number one Avatar fan, RB3, Robert Butler III. We are here to talk about this film and break it all down. I'm excited that it's you that I'm talking with. One of the biggest Avatar fans I think I know. I know maybe two.
Yeah.
And I think you happen to be one of them. The other one I know is Jenny Nicholson. Shout out Jenny, promoting this film for years now. She's been promoting it, and I think it's awesome that she loves it as much as she does. And I think it's awesome you love it too. You already did your movie review for this film on the First Cut channel, so we're going to talk about the spoilery stuff. This movie is 13 years in the making. James Cameron coming back into the fold. It is a visual spectacle. But RB3, my first question to you is, what makes it different from other modern spectacles that we've seen in the past 5-10 years in film? Why is Avatar: The Way of Water so special visually?
Well, I think there's two things of why it makes it special. I think it's special precisely what you're alluding to, because of the visuals, because of how visually stunning it is, the fact that it's a $460 million budget according to Deadline, and you can see all of that money put on screen with the CGI, with the use of sometimes animatronics, and with the use of sometimes they invented a lot of new technologies, like they invented this hybrid animatronic slash monitor head thing that like had the CGI actors video playing on a monitor, so the real life actors can interact with it. And I got all this information because I got to talk to a lot of visual effects people for Avatar. The article for that is coming out on Geeks of Color really soon. So there's a lot of new innovative technology that you wouldn't even notice, that wouldn't even like manifest even to being seen on screen, but just in the practicality of it. And I think you could tell through the film, even though I think it's a little, listen, the dialogue's a little basic, the story's a little, pretty straightforward, but that doesn't deter from the fact that it's an epic film. And I think that's also what makes people like it. I think the other thing that makes it different is that it's an old school blockbuster. It's a movie that has a beginning, middle, end, full story. Like the first hour is in the forest, second hour in the ocean, third hour on the boat, and it ends in a big, splashy, epic wartime fair with a huge setup and an even bigger payoff. I think that's why people love it.
Yeah, there's a lot there. And obviously, I think what makes it truly special is not necessarily the CG or the 3D. In my opinion, to me, it's the difficulty of shooting within water and then doing the CG and the 3D on top of that. Because filmmaking in water has been something that is iconic within blockbuster filmmaking, obviously with Jaws all the way back with Steven Spielberg, but shooting in water is notoriously super freaking hard. We just saw Wakanda Forever do it really, really well, to the point that I was like, man, it's gonna be hard for Way of Water to really try and compete against it, and it does, and it probably surpasses it, mainly because of what you said, the budget, in my opinion, and also because James Cameron is really good at what he does, especially in the water. That's kind of his speciality with Titanic and with other films that he's done in the past, The Abyss, Piranha, all those films that he's done with water has been really well done. So I feel like that is what makes it truly special. But it's the emotional aspect of it, RB3, that he's so good at, in my opinion, that I feel like is kind of underrated, where yes, the story is simple, yes, the dialogue is simple, but it doesn't mean that it's not emotional. And it doesn't mean that there's not characters there for you to get invested in, to the point that you feel when the action sequences come, the stakes rising, because you don't want those characters to die. You don't want those characters to have any harm come to them. So I feel like that is what makes James Cameron as good as a director as much as the visual stuff. I don't know if you felt that with this film, with the emotional aspect.
I definitely did. I think that's one of the things that I registered upon because I watched this movie 3 times in total. Upon my second and third watch, I definitely got to register, especially if you're watching certain characters in their story arc, right? Because we see at the middle son, Lowak, a lot of his story arc is about being an outcast, being by himself, but in the end, he's fighting along with the team, ultimately saving his dad, who largely his dad's been kind of like, he's been vying for his father's approval throughout the entire movie. But then also too, a little thing that they set up and pay off that you may not be paying attention to is like, oh, in the beginning, he picks up the machine gun and his oldest brother was like, oh, you can't shoot the machine gun. You can't shoot the machine gun. And literally at the very end, when he's saving his older brother and Kira and or not Kiri, but the other homegirl there with, he shoots the machine gun up like at homeboy. So it's like a nice little subtle way of like, if you were liking his character and you're paying attention to his character, you would have had a full story arc in and of itself. Same thing with a lot of other characters. Same thing with Kiri, who, you know, seems like is like kind of the symbolistic figure for like this like virgin birth, almost like a Jesus Christ figure, you know what I mean? And you know what I say, you know, it's only one JC in Hollywood and it's not Jesus Christ, it's James Cameron. But he, you know, he's doing what he's doing in this movie. And I think it just plays into, I think that's another reason why people, you know what's funny? A lot of people have been like telling me on the low, like, I really like the first Avatar movie, but I remember people saying it's a white savior movie. I remember people saying, it's this or that. But I deep down, like, people have loved this movie, like the original movie, for a long time. And I really do think it taps into a deep, like, religious thing for a lot of people, because I think if you are any kind of religion, I think you really relate to a lot of the themes that are in the first movie and especially in this movie. So I think it just touches on that for certain people.
You hit on something that I wanted to talk about. I think we can get to it later still, but I definitely want to talk about the criticisms of certain aspects of this film and certain aspects of maybe the first one that continues into this film. But for me, if I'm being real too, man, a lot of it, and I know you're right about the religious aspects, I'm not going to deny that. But another thing that I feel like is so on the nose to the point that I feel like a lot of maybe people who aren't paid attention are also going to miss it. But this is clearly a nature, environmentalist, climate change, love of nature, respect for nature kind of film, as much as the first one was. This one, in my opinion, even more, because of the Tulkan people, or the Tulkan whales who live in the seaside of the Navi Ocean, being sentient and having actual personalities and families and sentience and relationships with the Navi. I wrote down the name of the clan. It is the
Metkaina
clan. Who have these relationships as if they were part of the family, literally siblings. And that to me was the most impactful stuff for me. You know me, RB3, I'm a nature guy, bro. I love sea creatures. I love whales. I love dolphins. I think they're beautiful, powerful creatures with so much to them and so much we don't know about them, to the point that I feel like I'm a sucker for like nature stuff. I'm a sucker for animal stuff. You know this, man. I love animals to the point that I hate harming animals in films. Like I hate that. I feel like that's a clutch that people do. So for me, the relationship that the Metkaina have with the Tulkun is something that is so special in the movie that I feel like it's such a big punch, to the point that they're literally talking, that I think it's hysterical that they have subtitles. And I'm like, yo, whales have subtitles right now.
When the whale said it's too painful, I was dying. Like,
but that's the thing, where I feel like a lot of people can watch this and be like, whoa, they're talking. That's kind of weird. But it's also kind of like, it makes you think about how much harm we're actually doing to the ocean and to the sea creatures and to just nature in general. So I feel like that is such a powerful statement in The Way of Water.
It's powerful because they show you the connection that the reef people or the sea people have to the Tukuns, but then it also shows you the horrifying effects of like the welling, right, of the situation, especially when they're killing these massive, beautiful creatures in such a violent way, because literally they're not even fighting back whatsoever at all, only for this tiny little bit of droplet of goo that's coming like directly from their brain. It's really crazy. And when you're talking about that connection to the Tukun, you know, especially with like the connection to the ocean, I feel like I mentioned this in the Geeks of Color review, but I felt like a lot of that mirrored like native Hawaiian culture, you know what I mean? Especially in like especially like the connection to the whales. If you've seen that movie Whale Rider, which also had starred Cliff Curtis,
Cliff Curtis.
who was in this movie too as
Yeah,
the leader.
Maudie.
But yeah, exactly. But if you see that, that's exactly what this movie's touching on too. It's like that spiritual, like not even spiritual, but like that deep rooted familial connection, and it's across all nature, because even with those other creatures, they're kind of mirroring dolphins that they're riding up and down. And yeah, so but seeing that horror of those jerks like killing the two coon, especially the mother, when they were saying like literally they kill the mothers because all the calves like spread out, so they're really doing the most inhumane way of like killing these animals too. And then it just makes it so much more satisfying at the end when you see homeboy get his arm ripped off, and you're just like, yes, finally, this is exactly what I needed.
It's a special kind of evil, man, because the way they do it is not even like from an ignorant standpoint, where we've seen a lot of like, Jurassic Park movies and stuff about the evil scientist guy, but he's always coming usually from a place of like ignorance, where it's like these are dumb, stupid creatures. We got to kill them and they're dangerous. This one, they know they're intelligent. They know they have more emotions than humans do, like 10 times more is what they say in the film. They know that they're sentient and have families and literally have a relationship with the Na'vi people, and they still go out of their way to brutally murder them. Like, that is a special kind of evil where, it's one thing to be like, I'm killing this animal because I think it's trying to kill me, or I think it's a crazy creature that, thinks it's boss and I have to show it who's boss. No, this is a creature who doesn't fight back. They know it doesn't fight back, never. And literally is sentient to the point that they have relationships with the Na'vi people. It's a special kind of evil, to the point that I'm like, this might be more evil than the first one. These guys are worse than the first one, these hunters of the Tulkun. So I thought it was definitely a pretty jarring, depressing moment to see that scene of the mother, but it's also kind of important to really build up the stakes of who the villains are in this story, just so you can get that engagement in the finale of the film with homeboy, what's his name, Payakan, who really shows up and shows out at the end throwing hands, and that's all he wanted to do. He just wanted to throw hands. That's why he got banished. So I loved it, man. But let's jump into the Jake Sully family. I have them listed right here. I'm probably going to butcher their names, but they officially, Jake Sully and his wife Neytiri, played by Zoe Saldana, is having little kids now popping out, starting with the oldest one, who I'm definitely going to butcher his name, Neteyam. His young son and rebel, I put like rebel son, is Lowak. His teenage adopted daughter, played by Sigourney Weaver, is Kitty. And then his little one is called Tuktiri, who they just call Tuk in the film. Yeah. So this is now his little family, plus a little adopted homeboy named Spider. What did you think about the family dynamic and the kids running amok in the Na'vi world in Pandora?
Yeah, I thought they were cool. I honestly thought the kids were the best part of the movie. I didn't really buy into as much Jake and Neytiri, especially Neytiri. I mean, I felt like they kind of had Neytiri do stuff, but kind of not really. And her character arc was like a little like inconsistent. But I think with the rest of, like, those kids were just so believable, man. I feel like they really had a good energy.
They felt like real kids, right? Like real, like American kids.
Yeah. But they have the weird accents. The only thing is, like, what accent were they going for? Was it like Caribbean, or was it like want to be New York, or what was that? I didn't like that. I didn't like that they had that.
I was like, it's like, because they kept saying bro every 5 minutes, and I was like, all right, that's like a teenage.
Well, Loa kept saying cuz. Yo, what's good, cuz? What's good, cuz? Yeah. Cuz. Where'd you get that from? My boy in the hood. You hanging out with Tyrese.
What kind of books did he read, bro?
Right, I know.
What is his dad teaching him, bro?
Right.
He showed him these movies and he's like watching. That's the one thing that stood out to me. But I felt like that was more believable when he was saying cuz and bro and all this stuff. I was like, all right, yeah. They're teenage boys, literally.
No, they definitely made it. They definitely made it believable, especially Jack Champion, who was the one who played Spider as well. And a lot of people, it's funny. A lot of people were like, "Oh, he does so great. He was like the standout." He's only the standout because he's the only person whose face you can actually see. Yeah, that's the only reason why people are like, "Oh, he's a standout." No, but he was really good.
I thought Lowak was a standout for me.
Lowak had the most. I feel like they gave him the most to do. I feel like this was his story, and Kiri's story, and I feel like maybe in subsequent movies we're gonna see a little more Took. I feel like the way they didn't really do as much with the oldest brother, which definitely almost set up the fact that he might be dying in this movie or something like that. He was kind of just like the pitch perfect brother all the way throughout, but you kind of have that figure in everybody's family, and that's what everybody kind of lives up to. So I don't know. I thought the family dynamic was really strong. I feel like James Cameron has been going on these criticisms for years, like, oh, Marvel movies are just movies about men without families, or superhero movies are just men without families. I feel like he just leaned into that concept super hard for this movie, and I think it paid off. I think we don't see a lot of family action movies anymore.
It's a good question, though. What do you do when you're a superhero or like a revolutionary hero and you have a family? Like, now what, right? You have these people you have to fight against, but at the same time, you have a family to raise and to protect at the same time. Are you able to protect your family at the same time you're able to fight back against this invading force? It's a really good question. And honestly, it's been dived into in many other, probably not films as much, but definitely a lot of TV shows. A lot, Liam Neeson has done a bunch of these kind of movies like this, where it's literally about protecting your family and killing anyone who comes against them. But
Fast and Furious, you're telling me Fast and
Furious? Yeah, that's another one. It's all about that kind of idea of like raising a family, but protecting them at the same time. And that's why he chooses the Metgaina clan to seek refuge. And he realizes like, damn, bro, I'm really putting my family in danger. If I keep going on these missions and fighting back, I might as well just, post up, seek refuge, and raise them first before I do anything. And he's trying to do that throughout the entire film, even though they're pursuing him with the Stephen Lang's character, who comes back in form of the Na'vi. What'd you think of Stephen Lang coming back in this evil military squad made up of Na'vi?
I mean, he was great. I think that's one of the better parts of this movie. I think he, even through the CGI, I think he still had a really expressive, like, interesting performance. And I think just having somebody who is as ruthless of a killer as his character, I think his name's Quintrek or something like that. Quintrek, I don't know, I'm butchering it. But somebody who's like as savage as him, but then also in the Na'vi body, in the Avatar body, almost basically unkillable. Because I thought he was really dead after he drowned at the end. Like, I thought that was really going to be the end of this character, but now he's back. He's definitely gonna be back for more blood. I thought he was good though.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I feel like that rivalry that they have has definitely been building for a bit, and I'm interested to see what he does when he comes back. But do you see a Darth Vader turn for this guy, for Stephen Lang? Do you see him ever turning to the light at the very end and telling his son Spider goodbye and being like, "You were right all this time"? Do you see him actually helping the Na'vi at the end of these, Avatar 6 or whatever, when it comes out? Do you feel like that's his arc? Is that where it's headed?
I mean, I don't know. I never thought about it like that. I really don't know. So it's funny because when I saw it the first time, I really that's the one part when I first saw the movie, I was like really upset about that he survived.
Yeah. I thought that was like, to die so bad.
Yeah,
I was like, how can he not die?
Yeah. That was like the one thing I'm like, they're clearly trying to set up for some franchise potential, whatever. But I think the parallel of all the kids being able to save their respective parents, I think that was a beautiful parallel. And I think that is going to come back to play in some respect. I think there's going to be, I don't know if he's going to full out side with the Na'vi, but I think the tension between him and Eddie Falco's character, I forget her character's name, I think that's going to bubble up to something because you can already tell there's a little bit of friction happening right there. So I'm curious to see where that leads.
Yeah, it's super interesting what they're building up with because there's so many other films in the making and in the process with this Avatar franchise that is currently building. I want to get to a little bit more of the sequences and action sequences, visual sequences in this film. What is one of your favorite sequences in the movie that really kind of stood out to you?
Bar none, my favorite moment was when they went into the Cove of Ancestors, and it was a visual metaphor, motif for the spirit or Tree of Spirits that we saw in the first movie, which I thought was really nice. That if people weren't paying close enough attention, I really noticed this on the third watch. The exact same colors that you see the plants and the forest having in Avatar, are the exact same colors you see underwater. It's the exact same kind of species, exact same kind of stuff. It's just transported underwater. So I think that's just a nice, really interesting connection. But I think, yeah, going down in that and then seeing Kiri's her plugging in and seeing seeing Grace Augustine and interacting with her mother again. I know a lot of people were saying that's more of like another like franchise setup kind of situation. But I just thought it was a beautiful moment. I thought it was a beautiful moment visually, and I loved the pink radiating off of their blue faces and just everything about that. It was just gorgeous. And that and sorry, there's two things. There's two things. That moment and the moment where I forget homegirl's name, but she was the friend. She was the girl who was the friend of everybody. She was giving that monologue about the way of water, and it goes into the score, and then you hear the score, and Kiri's underwater doing her stuff, and then Soraya, yeah, I think that's her name. Yeah, she was giving. Yeah, I love that moment, and even you go to that music piece on the album, the score is literally called "The Way of Water." My favorite piece of score in the entire movie. For sure.
And it comes back in the end in a beautiful way. I mean, obviously, we're talking spoilers. So at the very end, when the ship is sinking and Kiri lights up all those little buggers that show up to light the way, and then Lowak gives that speech back to his father, Jake, to tell him about the way of water and what it represents and what it means and how it can come back. And I, maybe because I'm a crazy hippie dude, you know this, but I actually believe that there is a connection and an essence to nature where there is a way of blessing kind of coming back to you, where if you're able to bless this world and this life and this energy and the spirit that is around you, it is able to bless you back in a way where people say, thank the universe kind of thing, where like, damn, this is crazy, it's almost coincidental. And that is kind of what comes back at the end of this movie, with Kiri being able to tap into that and kind of representing that spiritual aspect of nature, where nature within itself has this heavenly, godly presence, where Mother Earth is Mother Pandora, or I think they call it Iowa,
yeah,
Iowa, which can represent the kind of same nature of the naming of like a Yewa, right, or Jehovah within certain faiths and religions, where it kind of represents that, right? That's what you're kind of praying to. So I think that's a very beautiful thing in this movie as well.
And I think they utilize Ewa's they multiple times where people pray to Ewa in the movies, and it's always at a very low point. When you see in the first movie, it was when all the humans were winning, and the Na'vi and the Avatar were getting defeated, and then all the animals came in and swooped in and saved the day. And then this one, it was the same moment when Paya Khan came up, and which I think was so funny. They were like, "Oh, the toucans are highly emotional." The way he had a hissy fit underwater was just breaking rocks, like just swinging around, like, "Nah, I am not gonna let my boy go down like this." And picked up that momentum and hopped over the thing. That's the one they showed that shot in the trailer. I wish they didn't show that shot in the trailer, but that was another dynamic, beautiful moment, especially seeing it in 3D when he came up, jumped up, and looped around like that. That was great.
When we first met Paya Khan, that might be one of my favorite sequences, because I felt it in my heart as a sucker for these creatures, man. I love sea creatures. I love whales, man. I think they're such majestic creatures, such godly creatures that are so beyond our own comprehension. That is such a marvel, and a marvel to look at. So I was like, oh no, James Cameron made a movie about whales. This is gonna hit hard. I already saw a lot of whales showing up in Wakanda Forever, and I was already rooting for them. So now this is like 10 times that. As a kid who grew up with Free Willy, so this is like Free Willy on steroids, bro. This was amazing. And I loved it having personalities, and the Tulkun people having their own language and communicating with them. That moment when we see the little baby meeting the Tulkun mother was something that was special as well. I just loved all of that. The way that Paya Khan showed up and was kicking ass. I was like crossing my fingers the whole scene, bro, making sure that he doesn't die. I was like, please don't die. That would break my heart. if he
Yeah.
did, but I thought that was such a beautiful moment and sequence, and it might be my favorite. That, and I really like Nate Titi going off at the end. I thought that was
Mm,
cool, and I like
mm,
Jake kind of showing up and showing out at the end as well, because he was just kind of talking the whole movie, and so was Nate
mm.
Titi. Nate Titi was just kind of like, yeah, she would just nod and say yes, but having them be like, oh no, we're like gangsters, we're like, we can kick anyone's ass, and they take down like a whole army. I thought that was kind of a sick way to end the movie in an action way.
Yeah. Did you man, hold up. Sorry, I lost it just that quick. Oh, what did you think of Natiri taking Spider and doing that, like almost wanted to sacrifice him for Homeboy?
Yeah, that was such an interesting moment. I kind of saw it coming. I feel like, I mean, obviously they were building to it,
Yeah.
where Spider was kind of afraid of her when she was
Mhm.
going off and when she was going Terminator mode.
Yeah, she gives no
Oh
regards for
no,
human life, none. Like, she don't care.
I thought that was epic. But you saw Spider kind of be like, "Oh shoot, like I don't know if I can go up to her right now. I think she might stab me.
Mhm.
This is kind of wild." And then obviously she does that scene at the end, but she sees Spider's selflessness in that moment where he's like, "Don't kill her. I don't really care if you kill me," kind of thing. And she sees that he's able to have this connection with Kitty, and it's obviously a love connection. I mean, you see that in the first 5 minutes of the movie. That's kind of what they're setting up. But I like it. I like Neytiri being a little bit more of on the darker side when she sees that she lost her son. I mean, that's such a devastating loss too. That's maybe one gripe I had with the movie, because I don't have too many, is maybe a little bit more emotion from Jake when he just lost his son, like literally dies in front of his arms,
Mhm.
in the way he's just like, all right, next mission, we got to go over here, and I'm just like, bro, your son just died. But at
Yeah.
the end, we get that scene at the end, which I thought was so important, because it really showed you that he did have a connection with him, when he taps into the spirit tree underwater and he's able to have this reconnection with his son. And
Yeah.
I felt like that was a much needed moment, which is another question that I have for you. How did the length work for you?
I personally love the length. I thought it was great. I didn't feel like there was a second wasted. Okay, not that's not right. I do feel like there were some seconds wasted, and the seconds were every time we kept cutting back to Spider and Stephen Lang when they were kind of reenacting the first beats from the first movie, especially particularly the scene when he's like finding his own like flying dragon thingy. I really thought that was like repetitive, and it almost felt like kind of random cutting back and forth between that. That's the one thing. But other than that, I thought every single scene was like perfectly paced, well executed, and just really hit home at the end. I wouldn't find any moments of cut. Even I saw with my significant other, and she was like very like bored during like the middle act and like during the second act and stuff like that. But I don't know. I can't. I every single second of that, I'm just ingesting the visuals, and I'm just getting the love for the water, because I think that's the part that was so important to the finale being so good, was how much love you start having for the water, the ocean, the sea people, their
The sea
culture, the
creatures.
animals, yeah, everything. Like when you establish that love, it makes that end battle so much more epic. So I wouldn't lose any of that. So I was totally comfortable with it.
And
Honestly.
there's so much more emotion in these creatures than I even feel in the first film. Although I love all the creatures in the first one, I felt like there was more in this one, and there was more to it in this one. And you saw the dark side of this, notorious company who are seeking this piece of this whale creature with the liquid that is supposed to make them young forever, or make them experience this eternal youth kind of thing, which is obviously something that's been in history for, I don't know how many years, forever, where people are looking for the fountain of eternal youth, and they find it in Pandora inside these creatures. But it also taps into that notorious aspect of who are these kind of people, right? Who would be looking for the fountain of eternal youth? Who are the, people who are paying that? And it's obviously the worst
Mm,
kind of people. And obviously
right.
this goes into our glass onion kind of thing, but it's kind of like the super ultra billionaires who think they're gods and who want to live forever on earth, who are
Mm,
endorsing this killing of the Tulkun, all in order for them to have this own selfish manner of maintaining their youth. And I thought like that was a beautiful metaphor to a lot of what's happening obviously now on Earth in our real life, with so many ultra billionaires who consider themselves to be worshipped, or want to be worshipped, and want to be loved, and want to have this eternal aspect to their legacy and to their life, when in reality they're just, you know, regular ass dudes who are just want power as much as possible.
And that's what's really making it funny, because if you really think about it, that whole like key to youth is a perfect metaphor for what they actually use wells for, which is makeup. Like they use well blubber to make lipstick and perfumes. So it is like kind of like a tongue in cheek analogy to be like, hey, hey, this is your living, your youth. This is your trying to live forever, your cosmetic beauty, you know? So I think they do play into that. And especially when a lot of those products are more expensive products, more quote unquote elitist products, same way that like people who wear fur, people who wear all these other things are disastrous to animals and disastrous to the planet, but they just don't care. They rather, you know,
fast fashion.
Yeah, fast fashion. Exactly. Yeah, I thought the motivations for the bad guys were a lot more sinister than the first one, at the very least, because at the very least they're like, oh, we're trying to mine like this unobtainium, or we're gonna ask the people to leave before we take like aggressive force. Nah, here they literally from the very jump, they come in straight colonizing the planet, destroy way more ecology than they did in the first movie, and then start building on killing animals. When homeboy when the colonel shot that little dolphin-like creature in the beginning, I thought that was tragic. Yeah, it was just all the way around, man. They come back with way harsher motivations, and so it just makes us root for the Na'vi people a lot more too.
It's such an interesting aspect between a peaceful balance of your own emotion, but at the same time having the idea of where does peace find its edge? Where does peace find its balance when you're having these people who are genuinely pure evil coming in and taking over, where the Tulkun have this way of life where it's like every life is precious, even the lives that are evil and want to kill us and hunt us down. When do we fight back? And that's what Baya Khan represents. And at the end of the film, Jake's final line is literally like, wait a minute, man, I think I was wrong. I think I was wrong to say that there's no way in fighting back. There's just way too many of them. But now I realize, like, I kind of have to. This is what we have to do. This is where we're currently lying. When you're faced with overwhelming evil, you have to fight back, regardless of your mentality of peace. So it really is just kind of the truth. I mean, that's what revolution is. Inside.
We saw that with Andor.
Yeah, with Andor, same thing. Where it's like you kind of have to be like, oh crap, I'm gonna have to throw hands. It has to happen. So, yeah, I love that, and I really did love this film. Real quick before we leave, a couple criticisms of the movie. Is this, I keep seeing this on Twitter everywhere, bro. I don't know if it's just the people I follow. Is this like a glorification of colonization? I keep seeing that everywhere, and I'm just like, is it? Answer that, RB3.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I think I could see it. I could see that argument for the first movie for sure. Like, I could see that in the sense of like, not colonization, but it's an argument for like the white savior complex. Like, white dude comes in, you know, saving the world. Get it. Got it. That's what the movie is. Okay. This second one, I don't get it. I don't get that complex at all. He's literally on the run. Like, it's the same thing when people are in trouble, or like or facing a court case, and they fly to the South or they fly to Hawaii. Like, this is literally what he's doing. Like, there's nothing colonizing about this. He's fighting for his life here. Like, ain't nothing. I can't stand by that for this movie.
What about the other criticisms, like Spider being like a white kid taken in by the family, a lot of white actors playing characters who are usually native or inspired by natives? Is that whitewashing in some way? I see that all over my
They're blue people.
That's what I keep saying.
They're blue people. Like, it's supposed to be fake.
That's exactly my thing, bro. I'm so glad you said that. I'm just like, what? We're whitewashing Navi blue people.
Right.
What?
I get that y'all are
I
saying
get it,
that
though.
it's
I get it,
inspired.
yeah.
I guess it's inspired by Native American people,
Yeah.
but would you rather have had Native American people blue CGI'd up and talking offensively? Would y'all rather have had that? I don't know. I'm asking, but I don't think so. So
I think part of me, I think part of me would maybe, but at the
Yeah.
same time, I'm not mad at them choosing these actors. I really did
Yeah.
feel like it came from a place of James Cameron just picking actors left and right, like what's her face, Tuktiri Tuk is like you know, she looks like a little Asian girl. She might be Islander. She might be Islander. Cliff
Yeah.
Curtis, obviously, and then
Yeah.
you have
Kate Winslet.
what's her face,
Zoe Saldana.
Saraya is like a
Mhm.
little, you know, mixed race girl.
Yeah.
You know, there's enough variety in the casting for me to kind of be like, okay, I feel like he just kind of went with whatever kid he liked, and they just happen to be those kids. So
Yeah.
I didn't see that necessarily, but I keep seeing it all over my timeline, so I have to bring it up. So
Yeah, I think it's the fact that if their accent was like a specific thing, like if they're specifically going for like a native accent or specifically like a Jamaican accent, I would be more pressed. But they literally clearly jump from like accent to accent like all the time.
Yeah.
There's nothing distinct about it. So it's
just
like
the amalgamation.
Yeah. And on top of that, I don't know. Let me stop right there. I do think they did an amazing job casting across the board. I do wonder what they're gonna do more with like Kate Winslet like later on down the line, because they were kind of hyping her up like in the press interviews and stuff.
I didn't even know she was in the movie.
Yeah, no, same here. She had the one scene where she was crying over her favorite well, but that was really like the only thing. So yeah. I do want to see more of that.
Either way, guys, those were our thoughts on Avatar: The Way of Water. Let us know in the comments down below, what did you guys think of this movie? But either way, you could follow us at First Cut and at First Cut TMO on social media. RB3, where can everyone follow you, man?
You can follow me at Director RB3. And one more criticism that my significant other did say that I thought was funny. The wigs in the movie were all water wave hair extensions. So if you Google water wave hair, those are literally all the hairs that they're wearing. She said they weren't the best wigs. She said they were bad wigs. But, you know, it's a CGI movie, so I don't know how much the actual hair they used.
But either way, guys, those are our thoughts. You can follow me at Squad Leader Ace as well. I'll be tweeting more about this movie and other movies as well. We appreciate you joining us for this review. But for the First Cut crew and for the Way of Water crew, we're going to be peacing out water style.
It's either me or you. Take you out the equation. It's either me or you. You do the math. Only one can remain.